So it's possible I could be switching to Sony, which is something I never really thought I'd say. Let me back up and give you some context here. So if you've been following along on this channel at all for the last couple of years, you know that my primary camera is the Canon R3, and I freaking love that camera. The R3 is a fantastic photography camera. It has incredible autofocus. It does fantastic video, and super importantly for me, it's a really, really high performing, like high speed camera, which is one of the things I needed. So I'm in the photo and the video world. I do a lot of hybrid shooting. I do a lot of shoots where I'm shooting photo and video at the same time. The R3 is one of only like 2 cameras I've ever used that I've been able to confidently say can do photo and video both fantastically well and perform in the job situations that I'm in. So that's been my world for the last couple of years. The R3 has been a phenomenal camera. But then this year, I also added the Sony FX3 to my arsenal because I've been starting to do more video-centric jobs that didn't include a photography element, jobs where I was specifically focusing on video and wanted a really, really fantastic video camera that was lightweight, that was small, that I could easily throw into my bag, but that would perform incredibly well in the video space, and just had some specific features that the R3 didn't, and that's where the FX3 has really kind of slotted in and filled that gap. And of course, as soon as I bought the FX3, people were like, well, why don't you just sell the R3 and buy, you know, some Sony camera and then just go to a full Sony kit? If you're already enjoying the FX3, why not just pair that with a Sony photography camera? And the reason was for that is I couldn't find a Sony camera that would perform in the space that I wanted to with the level of performance that I demanded. The Sony A1 was pretty appealing, but there was a few drawbacks. I had some friends that had used that camera and kind of gave me some feedback on that and were like, hey, I just don't think it would perform in the way that you want it to. In the photography space, the A7R5 looked fantastic, but for the video, that's where it kind of fell short. The A7 IV looked appealing as kind of a hybrid camera, but it didn't feel like it would fully meet up to the specs of what I would need it to do in a professional sense. And I already had the R3. The R3 has just been a phenomenal hybrid camera for me. And I'm like, well, I already have the R3. I already have Canon glass. I can just kind of add the FX3 and a couple lenses to that and just carry both kits with me, and I'm pretty set. And if I'm being honest, it's been a pretty great kit. The FX3 is a fantastic video camera. The R3 is a fantastic photo camera that can do really, really quality video as well. And so between those 2 cameras, I've been really, really happy on the jobs that I've been shooting. And then Sony came out with the A9 III.
The new 9. Alpha 9 Mark III.
And I started getting texts from friends that were like, yo, dude, this might actually be your transition to Sony. You should check out the A9 III. And yeah, that camera looks fantastic. Now, granted, all of my thoughts here on this are literally just from looking at the specs. I have not had hands-on with this camera. I know the camera is still on pre-order and not a lot of people even have had hands-on time with it. So take this with a grain of salt because obviously I don't know exactly how this camera is going to perform in the real world, but it can check all the boxes that my R3 has. Plus, it's even higher performance, higher speed, will perform even better in some specific environments. It has a global shutter, which makes it even more appealing on the video end of things. Plus, it's also obviously a Sony sensor in this camera, which means it would pair really, really well as a B camera on video shoots with the FX3. And I can honestly say for the first time, I feel like Sony has released a camera that I can compare head to head with my R3 and go, that actually might be worth it. And now I really don't want to hate on Canon too much here because I genuinely love the R3. I think it's one of the best cameras I've ever used in my entire career. Pairing that camera with the RF 28-70 f2, that lens is just absolutely phenomenal. I've been such a huge fan of that combination. And the R3 with the 28-70 f2 is what I shoot like 95% of my work on. But one of the issues I have with the R3 is I can't shoot C-Log 2, which is a flatter profile than C-Log 3. So I'm kind of stuck with C-Log 3, which is totally fine. Totally a fine profile, but I can definitely tell the difference when I'm shooting an S-Log3 on the FX3 and then trying to pair that with C-Log3 on the R3, and I genuinely prefer S-Log3 better. Now, I have no complaints on the photography end of things. I think the R3 is a phenomenal camera. The autofocus is absolutely insane. It's so fast, it's so versatile, it's so rugged. I absolutely love this camera. But an issue I do have with the R3 is the availability of lenses. Now, I've kind of got around this just by literally using one lens, the 28-70 f2, but even though Canon's done a really good job with continuously releasing new lenses on the RF system, number one, those lenses are super expensive, and number two, I don't know how we're this many years into RF glass and we still don't have a professional 35mm 1.4 lens. And so as much as I love that 28-70 f2, there's still some specific lenses that I can't even purchase from Canon, and the lenses that I do want to purchase from Canon are super expensive and I can't buy any third-party lenses. And so it just gets really, really expensive to keep an R3 in my kit because I have to have all this RF glass, which costs so much money. And comparing really the limited availability of RF glass for the Canon R3 versus just the plethora of glass available for the Sony E-mount on multiple different brands and even just the Sony glass itself, there's so many different options that it becomes really, really appealing to go, well, I'm already using the FX3 for all my video work. I love that camera. Why not pair that with a camera that seems to be as capable as my R3 is? And then I'd be able to share lenses, which means I'm bringing a smaller kit with me everywhere I go. And honestly, I probably would end up saving money in the long term just because the lenses are cheaper and there's just such a wide availability and versatility of lenses. So honestly, I don't really know where I'm at in all this. I'm just creating this video as my honest thoughts on the A9 III, and I think for the first time as a longtime Canon user, I'm actually contemplating adding an actual Sony photography camera to my kit. It's really, really hard to think about parting with the R3 because I really love that camera. But at the end of the day, I have to realize that cameras are just gear that you use to capture moments and create art and honestly make a living at the end of the day. And the best gear is first off the gear that you have. But if you are going to upgrade gear, I definitely and wholeheartedly believe that the best gear for you is the gear that's going to help you get the job done with the most efficiency and with the least level of resistance in the camera gear itself. Using the R3 and the FX3 side by side has been pretty easy, honestly. But as I'm looking at adding more lenses to the kit, it just becomes more and more annoying to have to bring two separate kits with me everywhere I go. And so looking at a camera like the A9 III is really, really appealing. So we'll see what things look like over the next few months. Obviously, this camera isn't even released yet. So once it releases, I'll probably end up renting it and doing like a head-to-head. If you're interested in seeing that video, let me know in the comments. I definitely will do like a head-to-head between the A9 III and the R3 and just give my honest opinions on this because I genuinely believe the best camera is the camera that can help you get the job done with the most efficiency and with the least amount of resistance. And I don't know if that's the A9 III for me. It might be, but for now, I'm still going to be on the R3. That's still going to stay in my kit. But anyway, those are my honest thoughts right now. Would love to hear your thoughts on this if that's something you've considered. I know there's a lot of R3 users that watch this channel. Yeah, let me know your thoughts on the A9 III, and who knows, maybe I'll be doing a Sony A9 III review here in a few months. That being said, if you are interested in the Canon R3, I think it is a phenomenal camera. I made an entire video about if you should purchase the R3, if that camera is right for you, depending on the type of work that you do. So feel free to check out that video here or wherever that goes. I always forget where that goes. I'll link that video so you can check that out, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.